The sunlight is perfect today. I still have fur balls on my shirt and in my hair. Hey, I scratched my nose. That's why you gotta see my forehead. Okay. 10 minutes or less, they say. That's just some number I made up or some number I believed is correct. I'm talking, but I'm not telling you why I'm posting this video. Looking at this piece of paper, my sticky note. Um, this is my shelter in place movie review of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, there's so much to say about this movie because it's popular, although westerns have fallen out of popularity at the particular moment. Um, I think everybody knows the theme song. That I'm not gonna whistle it, but I think everybody knows that theme song, and I know everybody knows Clint Eastwood, not off of this movie, but um, it's one of those phenomenons that you run across in the world. Um, I may be getting this wrong. I should have did a little research on it, but as far as I know, these movies there were this movie falls in the category of something like black exploitation and spaghetti westerns. Uh, they hold to a certain time period, and they were done. They were cheaply and made real hastily, and then they become this massive phenomenon. Uh, More spaghetti westerns than the black exploitation. But I mean, black exploitation had a few hits here and there, but for the most part, spaghetti westerns have this amazing following, and um, uh, it just known worldwide. Um, they're not. Speaking of this one, it's not a bad film. It came out in 1966. The runtime, I thought it was like two 240, 250, but actually I think it's like 306. So it's 3 hours and like 3 hours and 6 minutes. That's quite a long movie, but if you break down their journey, it's the three characters' journey in this movie. They travel quite a distance actually. You're starting out. You're introduced with oh god, his name's Tuco. I know the guy's name. I like Tuco because his he's more of a physical actor than he is a verbal actor. And that's another sad thing about this movie. Like I said, it was created so cheap and pretty much made as an after. Not nobody's really going to think about it after it's made kind of thing. Like it's not really that important of a film. Um, the audio has been lost because the only copy of this movie that's been found, the audio was destroyed. So they had to dub over all the actors so that it adds character to the film, but also takes away from it because you can't hear the emotion or the lack of emotion in the actor's voice in these scenes. You can only kind of get an idea what's going on, which is what it is. Wasn't born or around when this movie was created, so I have to pick up the scraps basically, and I'm glad the scraps are still here. To be honest with you, because it's I fell in love with this film. I fell in love with this film again in my youth, being at home and not having cable TV and having like basic TV, where it was like I think it was like 6 channels or something like that. So yeah, this is one of the escapes this is one of the few escapes that I was allowed uh, as far as movies are concerned. So it holds a special place in my heart. It's not in my top five. It's not in my top 10. It's probably somewhere in the top 100. I have to say. But let me try and give a give a breakdown of what happened in the movie instead of me just yakking about it. So it follows Clint Eastwood. I don't know his name in the movie. I think he's the good. The good. Uh, then the bad is Tuco. That's his name. That's the actor's name in the. That's the actor's That's the name of the character the actor plays in the movie. Tuco. He's the. I want to say he's the bad, but for some reason I feel like he would be the ugly, but whatever. And the ugly is I didn't write his name down. I think he was more popular than Tuco, but I just wanted to shed light on Tuco because I think he's a great actor. That character, that guy, the guy who played that character is a great actor. So it follows those three guys in this. They're basically just living life, and they make a case for their names. One guy makes a case for the good guy. One guy makes a case for the bad guy. One guy makes a case for the ugly guy. You know what I mean? So you catch him in that in the beginning of the movie, which I think is. I feel like I feel like I've seen that type of filmmaking somewhere, but I can't quite put my finger on it. I feel like it's more like James Bond type stuff, where it's like a little movie before the movie type thing going on. Um, so you follow these three characters. Two of them automatically cross paths with one another. Clint Eastwood and Tuco. So I feel like they're the two main characters, and the actor who plays the ugly, I feel like he's a supporting actor in this or something like that. Maybe I'm reaching. I don't know. So, but anyway, um, Tuco and Clint Eastwood. Tuco's wanted. Clint Eastwood turns him in to get hanged. Before he gets hung, he shoots the rope, which I think actually has been on MythBusters. I think, and several YouTube channels, if I'm not mistaken, people have actually tried to shoot um, a thicker rope with a projectile and were unsuccessful. They were able to get they were able to get the majority of the rope broken, but not a clean shot all the way through. Um, that's how popular this movie is. So anyway, uh, yeah. So but that gets old, then um, Clint Eastwood's character actually portrays Tuco, which just makes me like, oh, he's the good one in this one. Which I'm like, Jesus Christ, none of them are really good. I think they're all bad in their own ways. And the guy who's the ugly, I guess you could consider him the ugly because he just kills basically because he wants to. So he kills one guy and he kills another guy, and like neither of them said the words kill. I think only one of them may have implied that he wanted the other person killed, but the other one probably didn't say that. He just killed him just to be killing him. um, hey, so that dog of mine's. So yeah. Movie continues. I'm trying to remember when did I just watched this movie too. I'm trying to remember when did they meet? When did they wind up meeting? All three of them. But they all know each other because they run in the same circle pretty much. So they go back and forth. But I think I can't skip this. There's an homage. I think I'm using that word right. There's an homage to a scene in this movie that's done in the John Wick movie. Now, in this particular scene, John Wick goes into an antique. Now, he goes into a museum. He finds all these revolvers. He takes them apart. He uses a barrel from one, a cylinder from another one, and then I guess it would be the trigger mechanism and handle from another one. Puts them all together to make one. That same exact scene happens in this movie. And that's things like that, details like that, that um that like somebody who really shoots, not myself, but somebody who really knows something about firearms knows that there's shortcomings in each firearm. Right, this one has a better trigger than most. This one has a really well balanced and strong cylinder. This one has a really nice barrel that I can probably get my projectiles to reach out a little bit further with, and it hasn't failed me. So I'm going to combine them. Some so small as that. Just like I said, I like the details. That scene in The Good, and Bad, and Ugly comes about after um, Clint Eastwood leaves him basically to die in the desert, and he makes it back to town, and it's a great scene. I'm not even gonna try and speak on it. It's a really good scene. So things progress, and somehow they wind up impersonating Confederate soldiers. The movie takes place around the time of, well, actually, it takes place during the Civil War, and believe it or not. So you've got a lot of things going on. So you've got Old West. That's one thing. You've got three. I guess you would call them. They're not bandits. I guess you just call them rough cowboys or rough men from that time period. And then you've got the Civil War going on, and then you've got $200,000 in gold. In that time period, that is a fortune. And this is before. This is really before. Believe it or not, this is really before paper currency was a thing. No, that sounds kind of odd, but uh, precious metals were still uh, more valuable than paper. Paper was a new thing. Paper was a new thing. I'm trying to see where. So, but they wind up impersonating Confederate soldiers. But at this time in the movie, the tables have turned. Tuchel was trying to get revenge on Clint Eastwood's character by making him basically die in the desert. But wouldn't you know, a stagecoach runs up there, and the guy has a secret where the gold is buried. So there's two parts of the secret. There's the cemetery is buried in, and the name on the grave. Masterfully done. Tuco knows the cemetery, and Clint Eastwood knows the name on the grave, but neither of them know the other one's secret, right? So they have to keep each other alive, and that's where the character who plays the ugly comes in. They're impersonating Confederate soldiers, and they get taken to an internment camp for soldiers. And this guy somehow weaseled his way into a commanding role inside this internment camp, and he's looking for the person that Tuchel's name that he's assumed by now. So, come here, get over here. Oh no! And now she wants to tussle with me. So now they find. Look at her. It's my girl. Look at her. So now they find. Cut it out. Hey. So now they find themselves in a predicament. Tuchel gets beat up pretty good. Tells his part of the secret. Clint Eastwood gets to ride along because he knows he's built as this tough character. There's some more good Western type stuff in there, shootouts and that. And then it comes to the end. And Clint Eastwood wins. And guess what? I'm not going to tell you what happens because it's worth the watch. I know it's a 3 hour long movie and you probably just watched the review. But I think it's a good movie. Like I said, it's not in my top 5. It's probably somewhere in my top 100 just because of the sentimental value I have for the movie. Got another review. I got another review coming up. And I guess I just see you then.